Good evening and welcome to Daily News Simplified. In today's edition, dated 27th of June 2024, we are going to discuss the following topics with respect to the civil services examination. From the point of view of mains, we have taken two articles, the first being the role of opposition in a democracy, and from the second aspect that we are going to cover with respect to your mains examination is the concept of solar rooftop. What are the challenges with respect to this particular scheme and what is the way forward? With respect to the prelims examination, we are going to take four questions. The first question being in the context of emergency, the second one being with respect to a zoological park, third one being with respect to the recent elections held for the position of Secretary General of NATO, and the last one being with respect to micro, small and medium enterprises. And if you stay tuned, we are going to have another unique surprise element for you for the session for today. So the first article that we are going to deal with is with respect to the role that is played by opposition in a democracy. This particular news or this particular article editorial has been written by PDT Achari, who has been former Secretary General of Lok Sabha. This news appeared on page number 8 of the Hindu newspaper of today. What is the context of this news? The context of this particular news is that the opposition, for the first time in a decade, in 16th and 17th Lok Sabha, for the first time for the past two Lok Sabhas, the opposition has gained enough number of enough number of MPs so as to gain the position of leader of opposition in Lok Sabha. The past 10 years, the Lok Sabha was run without any leader of opposition. Now, since the dynamic has changed, although NDA was able to secure the third term for its government, but India Alliance was able to secure a respectable number of seats, and Congress in itself, Indian National Congress, with 99 MP seats, was able to secure the position of leader of opposition. In this context, we will understand the historical background and evolution, and then what is the role played by leader of opposition primarily and in general the opposition parties in building a sustainable and healthy democracy. So we all know that India has followed the Westministerial form of government that has been form of democracy that has been inspired by United Kingdom. So in United Kingdom, the opposition leader is called as Prime Minister in waiting. One second, please. The main opposition leader is called as the Prime Minister in waiting. And in past, although there has been no question directly on the role played by opposition, but there have been two questions which have been on the Indian party system and comparing and contrasting the approaches to democracy or parliamentary sovereignty as compared to Britain. So there is a strong likelihood that this could be a possible question in your mains examination, because this thing is happening after 10 years that we have got a leader of opposition as well as a strong opposition in Lok Sabha. So now, what is the historical background of evolution of office of leader of opposition? As we all know that immediately after independence, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru was able to secure surmounting majority in the Lok Sabha, and there was no scope for any leader of opposition in the initial years of our government. However, there were directions given in 1951. These directions or direction orders was given by the Speaker of Lok Sabha, and under the order number 121, the Speaker said that whosoever is able to secure at least 10% of the number of seats, that is quorum, can be recognized as a party in Lok Sabha, right? Then later on, as there was no official recognition of leader of opposition or primary opposition party in Lok Sabha, this thing was statutorily done by Salary and Allowance of Leader of Opposition Act 1977, which gave a statutory and legal recognition to the most the single largest party in Lok Sabha as well as the Speaker of Lok Sabha. And the salary and allowance of the prime leader of opposition were kept at par with the cabinet, at the rank of cabinet minister. So you see that leader of opposition is accorded a high stature even in the Indian model of governance. And the leader of opposition also plays various kind of roles in the governance framework of India. For example, what is the importance of opposition or mainly the leader of opposition? First is that he, as a convention, as a parliamentary convention, the deputy chairmanship of Lok Sabha always goes to the primary opposition party, right? For example, if let us say Congress has become the opposition party in India this time, although it is nowhere written in the statute, but the deputy chairperson seat as a convention goes to the primary opposition party. Then the leader of opposition also becomes the head or the chairperson of public accounts committee and other parliamentary committees, for example like estimate committee, so on and forth. So you see that what is the role of public account committee? It is one of the prime institutions in India to hold the government accountable in general, and most importantly it is significant with respect to financial accountability of the government. So you see that leader of opposition is playing a very important role in various committees like public account committee and estimate committee, so on and so forth, right? Then it also plays a significant role as a leader of opposition. He or she also plays a significant role in the appointment of various chiefs. For example, the three C's like CVC, CBI, right, so on and forth. In these recruitments of the top bureaucrats of the country, the say of leader of opposition is taken. Then, however, at the same time, we see that powers of, let us say, speaker have been codified in the rules as well as the constitution, but powers of leader of opposition have not been codified anywhere, neither in the constitution nor so in the particular said act of 1977. So again, the powers which develop as a part of parliamentary convention, so on and forth, are given to the leader of opposition apart from these particular powers that we discussed today. Then let us come and see what can be the role of a opposition, a strengthened opposition that can be played in Lok Sabha, right? So the first role that can be played that we discussed already is with respect to the accountability. The primary role of the opposition is with respect to setting up of accountability in Lok Sabha. How? With respect to the estimate committee, with respect to the reports which are tabled in the presence of public account committee, they can discuss those particular reports and bring in their briefs and discuss those at the floor of the house. So whenever a bill is presented and tried to be passed in haste, there comes the role of opposition, a strengthened opposition, which always acts as a check to the surmounting power of the party in power. Then it acts as a legislative and institutional watchdog. For example, if we can see that what are the institutional, how it acts as the institutional watchdog, because it plays an important role in the appointment of directors of CBI, CVC, so on and forth. So in this particular way, it acts as an watchdog in the appointment of bureaucracy as well as legislative watchdog. How? Because they have, if they have strength at the level of Rajya Sabha, they can delay the bill, they can ask the bill to be resent for reconsideration, so on and forth, right? Then India being a diverse country, the primary party which is in power always comes, generally it comes from a strengthened ideological background. or at least that is what is happening for the past 10 years, right? But in the case of opposition, it has a fractured, although it has a fractured mandate, but at the same time it also represents the diverse voices and regional parties at the central level. So they are the primary source of diverse voices and opinions when it comes to the saying of those opinions at the central level. For example, in the passage of various bills, let me take a very interesting example of Trinamool Congress over here, right? So, what did at the time of passage of particular bills which were concerning with respect to packaging in India, Trinamool Congress was able to raise its concerns with respect to the jute industry in the West Bengal region, right? So that is how diverse voices are being heard when it comes to the opposition in India. Then we can also say that they are able to play, they ensure competitive political environment, and ideally practically although it does not happen very often, but whenever it is said that a leader of opposition is a prime minister in making, right? And if there is a very fine margin or a very thin majority, as soon as the government collapses, the opposition is asked to claim stakes to the floor, and the leader of opposition becomes the prime minister, right? Then we have all seen in the recently passed bills, for example, CAA, right? Aadhaar bill, the controversies with respect to Aadhaar bill, right? So opposition has always offered its policy critique when it comes to the governance framework of India. However, the problem with Indian opposition generally becomes that they are not able to provide constructive criticisms to the policy. The criticism generally becomes less backed by the data and more backed by the emotions. That becomes a problem when it comes to Indian policy framework. However, the requirement is that the opposition should go very well into the research and then only provide policy critiques and also offer alternative solutions, right? Then next is with respect to mobilization of public opinion. For example, you are all seeing that the issues around NEET are highlighted in the parliament and in and outside the parliament already, and that is how the opposition should work, right? So as to set the accountability of the executive in motion. Then again, obvious one of the obvious role of opposition is that provision of democratic political alternative, right? For example, if the government falls short of any vote, right, and the government goes away, then opposition always plays a democratic alternative role. That is, we need not go to the position of president rule, right? The opposite, if the opposition is present, we can always think of and go for the alternative government. And then last is with respect to maintaining checks and balances and avoiding majoritarianism. So whenever a particular political party has got an unfathomable majority, there is a natural tendency, as for example, Lord Acton has said that power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. So this statement holds true in even in the form of parliamentary form of government, right? So it is the natural tendency of power to get concentrated, and then it corrupts the power holder. So whenever there is an opposition present, a strong rational opposition that is present, they try to balance, and then they are the primary voice that avoids the majoritarianism in the house. For example, in the past also, opposition has played very good role when it comes to, for example, it was when it was BJP that was in opposition, they played a very good role when it comes to exposing 2G scam, Commonwealth Games scams, right? So on and forth. So this was only possible where because of provision and availability of a strong opposition, right? So that is how the role of opposition is important in India. Now, what is the way forward? If you get a question in the mains examination, let us say, what can you say that is the way forward when it comes to role of opposition, right? For example, the first recommendation is that the opposition needs to be allocated more time so as to raise their concerns, right? Even the article written by PDT HRE says that when Nehru was prime minister, he used to request the chair that please allow more time and space to the opposition, right? To the people or to the MPs who are coming from opposition parties to raise their voices, right? Then the second recommendation is that the speaker should not act in a partisan manner, right? For example, even this particular article itself cites the example of Pandit Nehru, that he used to say that I am not going to listen the criticism of my own government from my own ministers. It is the other party or other ministers who are going to show me the reality of India, right? So speaker should not act in a partisan manner and restrict the voices of the leaders of opposition. Rather, they should provide them time, space, and facility to raise their concerns. Then the next is with respect to there should be a constructive provision to answer every question that is raised by the opposition. Although it looks very idealistic, but this can be done. There can be a rationing of the questions. If the question seems appropriate and logical to be asked and raised, it should be answered at the floor of the parliament. And lastly, even though there is a little less space that is occupied by the opposition at the floor of the house, however, the opposition plays very crucial and critical role in the various committees that we just discussed in the preceding part of this lecture. Here the opposition should try better articulation of the idea, better noting down of those ideas, so on and forth, that those particular reports, whenever there is action done on those particular report or any action taken, those ideas should be recorded and those recommendations could be followed by the government, right? So this is the way forward when it comes to role of opposition that is played by India and how it should be, how it can be improved. Now moving on to the second topic of the day. The context of this particular article is the article that has come on page number 8 of the Hindu of today. So in the past, government has been proactive in launching and suggesting that India should adopt more and more India should adopt more and more renewable energy. We should again set an ambitious target of achieving 30 megawatt of renewable energy, and in this matrix of renewable energy, solar energy has to play a vital role, and specifically solar rooftop energy with the advent of Prime Minister Suryodaya Yojana, right? Solar rooftop scheme is going to play a vital role. Now, what is the syllabus mapping when it comes to this particular topic? The syllabus of your GS paper 3 says that energy sector and renewable energy is part of your preparation. And in the past, although there has been no direct question on this particular topic, but we will see how this particular question that was asked in 2022 is again connected to the problem that we face over here in this particular solar rooftop scheme. Now let us read the question. Do you think that India will meet 50% of its energy needs from renewable energy by 2030? So we have set a target that by 2030, we had set a target that we will try to reach, we'll try to meet 50% of our energy demands with the help of renewable energy solutions by 2030. However, we are not even close to that. Justify your answer. Do you think if it is correct, then justify your answer. How will the shift of subsidies from fossil fuel to renewable energy help achieve the above objectives? Now, herein lies the challenge, and the same challenge of shift of subsidies or the lack thereof we will see in this particular scheme as well, right? Moving on, let us understand what is the concept of solar rooftop. Generally, you have seen that to generate solar energy, large scale solar farms are created. Now, large scale solar farms need large scale land, and the vast majority of barren lands could be available in, let us say example, let us take the example of Rajasthan. There could be available in Gujarat. However, in fertile states, for example like Madhya Pradesh, for example in urban areas like Delhi NCR, those land availability is not there because of the high degree of either urbanization or the fertility of soil. In those particular cases, there is a particular advantage if we place PV cells on the roofs of our houses. Then what happens is that first, if whenever sun rays, the same principle of solar farms acts over here also, but the primary difference is that we have to install an AC to DC to AC converters, and then we have to apply for the storage facility as well, right? And then the third aspect is that we have to also install a net metering devices so that we could transact the energy with the distribution companies in a monetary way. Now, what is the importance of rooftop solars? First is that increased energy accessibility and inclusivity, right? For example, close to 16 to 17% of India's population still does not have direct access to discom based energy, or they do not even have connections at all. Sun, being a perennial and permanent source of energy, would provide direct access and inclusive energy to everyone. Next advantage with respect to this is that in the traditional sources of energy, there are huge transmission and distribution losses which are very well recognized in India. But in this particular case, since the energy is produced and consumed and uploaded or transmitted, additional energy is transmitted to the discoms, these particular losses are minimized. Third being naturally that this particular source of energy is clean and no additional, most important aspect is that there is no additional space that is required, because we are already, what we are using our own solar rooftops. Despite having all these advantages, why do you think that the uptake of this particular scheme is missing? There must be certain challenges associated to it, because of which the uptake of the scheme is missing. The first of the challenges that we will discuss is with respect to high upfront costs, right? So upfront, why does it have high upfront cost? Because we don't only need PV cells over here, we need the whole network, right? We need converters, we need batteries, we need meters, and additional infrastructure for modification on case to case basis, right? All these needs huge upfront cost that the person whosoever tries to install this scheme needs to pay, right? So people are unwilling to invest all this particular amount in the particular scheme. Next is with respect to specialization and customization. So what is the meaning of specialization and customization? The inherent meaning is that every particular household is going to have different energy consumption matrix. For example, some particular house will have, let us say, basic amenities like a fridge and TV. Some particular house might be having some luxury amenities, for example like air conditioning. Some particular house might be having or might not be having heating based devices, right? So everyone will have a specialization and customization need, right? Again, for these particular specialization and customization needs, the additional devices are required, right? So this again adds up to the initial investment cost, and then it deters the uptake of this particular scheme. Then the third example is that there was a research conducted in NCR Delhi, and see, Delhi government gives more than the subsidy of Delhi government when it comes to uptake of solar rooftop scheme is more than any other state in the country, right? But still, and again, Delhi is an ideal place for solar rooftop installation of solar rooftops. Then it was observed that the uptake in proportion to the subsidies provided was only up to 20%, right? What was the reason? They went and saw the reasons and observed that in many areas people are having limited solar rooftop areas. The problem with urbanization is that we are living in perhaps flats of 300 to 400 to 500 square feet. So again, this particular area becomes very limited, and then everyone is sharing the roof, right? So consensus building is required, and then at the same time the rooftop area is only close to 300, 400, 500, 700 square feet, so on and forth. Next, with respect to rural areas, the problem is reversed. Although they have larger areas, but the roof strength is not that adequate. Sometimes the roof strength is in itself is not that adequate that it could bear the additional burden of solar based instruments. So the challenges, again, these are practical challenges that are being observed and noticed. Then the next challenge is with respect to low energy consumption. Moving on to the additional and most important challenge that has been the aspect of this particular question as well, right? What was the question? How will the shift of subsidies from fossil fuel to renewable help achieve this particular objective? Then the challenge over here is that solar again still faces stiff competition from its alternatives. What are the alternatives? Gas based power plants and thermal based power plants. So the concessions or subsidies that are provided by the government are in form of, let us say, they could be in the form of GST or customs duty. And in the past, as per a report, a subsidy of 3.2 lakh crore was provided to the energy sector in India, and out of this 3.2 lakh crore, only 10% of it is provided to renewable based energy. The rest of it, 90% of the chunk of subsidies is provided again to traditional based industries, so as to either under the pressure of discoms or so as to keep the energy rates low. Then next aspect is with respect to cumbersome load extension and adjustment processes. As we have already discussed, that sometimes the house need some certain kind of load extension and adjustment as per the demand of appliances. So the process with respect to load adjustment with discoms is again very cumbersome, and there is limited support that is provided by the discoms at the level of net metering, installation of net metering itself, because see, again, it is a transaction based game, right? Discoms are there to sell you the energy. That is how, on the basis of the profits that they generate over here, on the basis of those profits, they conduct their business, obviously, right? So if they start purchasing from you, again, it acts as a small dent in their profits. So they are, again, there are no assurances from the discoms when it comes to uptake of this particular scheme, solar, that is solar rooftop scheme. Now after seeing the challenges, let us see what are the way forward. So the first one being timely implementation and penalty clause. If the government is serious about the uptake of Pradhan Mantri Suryodaya Yojana or any other rooftop scheme that is promoted by the state, then we need to apply timely implementation clause and penalty clause when it comes to the performance of discoms, right? So if discoms are not discoms, that is distribution companies, are not cooperating over here with the end user, right? So there should be a penalty clause on the discoms. Then we need to ramp up our manufacturing, right? So what is the inherent problem over here is that generally you see that even on the PV cells you see the branding of make in India or made in India. But however, the inherent challenge is that the raw silicon wafers are always imported from China. Ancillary products, additional products, batteries are also imported from China, assembled over here, and then branded as made in India. So we are not originally we are not the primary producer of those particular technologies like PV cells, so on and forth, and additional infrastructure that is required. So this creates a kind of bottleneck because the prices increase, right? The initial prices of initial investment in this particular technology increases. So once we address those issues, I think we would be better positioned to apply it at the mass level. Then next is that there is a need of R&D in solar storage and smart grid solutions. Further research and development is required to make this technology more easily available and accessible, right? Then there is a need to go for awareness of the increased uptake of this particular scheme. Next recommendation when it comes to this is as simple as accessible financing. This particular recommendation means that it is easier to get a loan for example, a two-wheeler or an automobile, but it is very difficult to get a loan for this particular scheme. So the government need to provision that if the person is going for a soft loan, right, it should be processed at the earliest, and the financing for this particular scheme needs to be made more accessible and easily available. Then the problem with respect to all the problems with respect to discoms need to be addressed, especially in the context of streamlining the processes when it comes to net metering solutions, right? And in case these particular challenges are not met, there should be a provision of imposition of timely penalties and punishments, right? So this is the way forward when it comes to the increasing the uptake of rooftop solar scheme, and what could be additional way forward when it comes to that. Now moving on, we although this topic we are not going to see in detail, but as soon as I saw this particular news, I thought that maybe perhaps we could experiment today and see if this particular thing, this particular example could be used in your GS paper 4 or not. So what is the context of this particular news? Context is that you all must be using, most of you must be using your iPhones in your hands. So Foxconn is a company that is one of the primary manufacturer of iPhones accessories, right? So Foxconn installed a factory in India, and there are recent reports that Foxconn's hiring practices are under the scanner of Labor Ministry and Labor Commissioners. Why? Because it has been seen in the recent times that they are reluctant in hiring married women. This is happening again in a state like Tamil Nadu, which is considered very progressive, and it has high FLFPR. But again, this FLFPR is of perhaps unmarried women, and as soon as they are married, companies like Foxconn are dropping them from their labor force, or either very reluctant to make them join as the labor force. Now, in the past, there has been a case study in year 2019. Let us read the case study as we see it. There is an apparel manufacturing company which is having a large number of women employees, just like perhaps Foxconn, and was losing sales due to various factors. Company hired a reputed marketing executive who increased the volume of sales within a short span of time. This means this particular executive is very efficient and professional, right? These two qualities can be seen in this particular professional. However, some unconfirmed reports come up regarding the indulgence in sexual harassment at the workplace. After some time, a women employee lodges a formal complaint to management against the marketing executive about sexually harassing her. Faced with the company's indifference and not taking cognizance of the grievance, he lodges an FIR with the police. Realizing the sensitivity and gravity of the situation, the company called the women employee to negotiate, and in that, she was offered a hefty sum of money to withdraw the complaint. Again, we see issues with respect to whistleblowing, right? And also give in writing that the marketing executive is not involved in the case. Now, here is the ethical dilemma. Would you report this kind of crime, or would you remain silent and take the money? Identify the ethical issues involved in the case. What options are available to the women employee? Now, in the same spirit, let us change the background of the case. Posh, instead of sexual harassment, we now have a hiring executive or a top level management who is very proficient, very efficient, very good, but they are showing clear biases in their hiring practices. They are showing clear biases in their hiring practices, and they are willingly dropping the names of married women when it comes to the hiring in the company. Now, how will you solve this kind of this particular kind of case study? We will how do we approach it? Let us see in brief. We'll write the introduction. In this particular introduction, we will address what are the key issues involved in the case. Key issues are, for example, key issue can be discrimination, right? Discrimination, gender based, against equality, image of company. These could be some of the key issues which we could mention in the introduction. Now we'll come to what are the we'll see what are the stakeholders involved. So basically the stakeholders would be the company, top level management, employees, all the employees, specifically married women, labor unions, right? Then it could be the labor commissioner or labor department, or overall government. This could be your stakeholders. Then we will move towards what identifying the ethical issues involved in this case, and then we will move towards writing the options that are available. Okay. Then what are the ethical issues involved? Try to list the ethical issues involved. If this is a case of discriminatory approach towards hiring a female employee, what are the ethical issues involved in this particular issue? In this particular case, issue could be violation of rule article 15, right to equality, no discrimination based on religion, race, caste, place and sex of birth. Then stereotyping, right? Gender based bias, equality of opportunity, Then again, there can be an argument of loss of talent workforce. See, you can even introduce some philosophers over here that, for example, what Mill used to say. Mill used to say that I will not shy when it comes to giving voting rights and working rights to women, because I would not like the state to miss upon the opportunity of the collective knowledge and experience of the 50% of the intelligentsia, that is women, right? So we can say that there could be a loss of talent when it comes to company. Then maybe perhaps one other issue can be ensuring workplace diversity, right? Then we are all knowing this particular concept of glass ceiling, when a at the particular level, beyond a particular level, women are restricted from joining. So this is one of the manifestation of glass ceiling effect, right? So these are the ethical issues involved. Now when you write and solve these case studies in the examination, what you have to do is that you have to substantiate each you'll have to write a bit on the each point, and you have to substantiate each point with some good examples. So again, Foxconn or Apple becomes one of the examples of bad practices in the corporate governance. Next, again, what options are available to the particular women employees who are being married and are being discriminated against? So the obviously will go in a certain order. The first one being trying to negotiate, trying to talk. Options available: try to talk with the management first. This could be one of the options. Then if they are not responding very well, try to talk to further superiors. Then another, there could be an option of talking to the media, whistleblowing, bringing this thing in the notice of labor commissioner, right? So these could be some of the options. While addressing the case study in detail in your means examination, what you'll have to do is that you'll have to write and describe the merits and demerits of the all the options, and based on your understanding, what can be the most or the best possible way, you have to then again address that as well. And then lastly, you'll try to write some way forward to this particular problem. Then what can the company do to uh, solve this particular issue, right? For example, company could immediately go for firing that particular employee, right? But that is relevant in the context of posh case studies, but less relevant over here. But overall, changing the policy, even if that is an unsaid rule, there needs to be change, right? Companies need to be progressive. Then as for example, policy revision, then training and awareness campaigns, crèche facilities for women with young stillborns, and these kind of facilities need to be made available. A company could go for making working on work life balance, right? Right. And then this is how they will be able to address and recover with the social image of the company. So this particular news was only for example, we had taken this particular news because I saw this particular news example of Foxconn having some kind of discriminatory practices, and it reminded me of this particular case study with respect to Posh that came in the past, right? So I hope you like this particular experience. Now we move on to the prelims articles for the day. We'll take a break of a couple of seconds. So moving on to the prelims aspect for the day, the first news that we have taken is in the context of recently the speaker, newly elected speaker of Lok Sabha, Shri Om Birla, he passed a motion on emergency that was imposed in 1976, right? So he passed a motion kind of criticizing the emergency and what all anti-democratic practices were followed by the then prime minister. He tried to highlight it, and in this context we will understand the background of emergency and at the same time what transpired over there at the time of emergency, and we'll try to solve one MCQ based on the um, previous year questions. Now it was the background of the emergency is such that India was going through huge financial crisis. Even at the international level, the socio-economic environment was not that good. And again, at the same time, Indira Gandhi feared kind of insecurity when it comes to her popularity as a leader. So in this background, this particular emergency was imposed by President Fakhruddin Ali Ahmed in 1976 under Article 376, that is with respect to internal disturbance in the country. This particular provision of emergency suspended certain federal provisions, that is state governments lost their powers, right, and came under the direct control of the center, and also suspended certain fundamental rights. So you must be knowing that there is a category of fundamental rights that is suspended, and there is a category of fundamental rights that is not suspended under emergency. So you please write in the comment section that which are the rights, fundamental rights which are suspended, and especially those rights which are not suspended at even after the imposition of emergency. Now this was the particular provision that is under the MISA Act, under the MISA Act now of 1971. The various leaders, prominently the opposition leaders, were arrested, right, and sent to various particular jails, right. However, there was certain advantages. For example, after imposition of emergency, ironically, the functioning and efficiency of the government increased. Again, the dilemma or the challenge over here is to balance accountability versus efficiency. In most of the cases, you will find that, for example, dictatorial form of government, although they are very efficient, very proficient in working, just like we saw in this particular case study also, that this particular person was very efficient and proficient, but again he was doing some kind of different kind of acts, right. So the dilemma over here also is to balance between uh, efficiency and accountability, and through various judgments even the Supreme Court has held that efficiency is a lesser order virtue or value, and accountability is a very higher order virtue. And we, if we have to sacrifice one at the altar, we will always try to sacrifice the efficiency, right, and not the virtue of accountability, because the accountability has direct linkage with the principles and values of democracy. So, however, coming back to the topic, a 20-point program to alleviate poverty was launched by Srimati Indira Gandhi, Prime Minister Indira Gandhi. So what were the key features of that particular program? It liquidated the debt of farmers, right? Then basically, if you remember, Garibi Hatao, right? Implementation of existing land sealing laws. Land sealing laws were already in place, but they were not implemented with full energy and enthusiasm. She came to power and she tried to implement those land laws so as to gain mass popularity. Then 1.1 million surplus land which was available with the state was distributed to the poor farmers, and most important provision that, or the success story when it comes to this particular emergency, is that bonded labor was abolished through Bonded Labor System Abolition Act of 1976. In this particular act, if you remember the name of a very honest, sincere and hardworking civil servant by the name of S.R. Sankaran, he played a key role in abolition of bonded labor as a secretary rank official, right? So these were the key provisions and history of emergency. For further details, also read the PDF that is provided to you along with the lecture, right? Now let us come back to the practice MCQ. In the past, there has been a trend that is seen that UPSC is again going to post independence events of post independence India in 2018. As you can see, nationalization and so on and forth, question was directly asked. Now let us come back to the practice MCQ. Consider the following statements with reference to post independence developments in India. The national emergency in 1975 was proclaimed by then President Fakhruddin Ali Ahmed, right? So this statement is, yes, correct. The Maintenance of Internal Security Act MISA was introduced by Union government during the period of emergency. No, this statement is incorrect. It was already in place in 1971 and it was only practically used over there in 1976. So statement 2 being incorrect, right? Just cut the ones with 2, you get the answer 1 and 3. Again, let us try to read and see if this statement number 3 is correct. During the period of emergency, the Bonded Labor System Abolition Act was enacted. Yes, definitely and correct, right? And S.R. Sankaran, remember this particular name. You can use this name in your GS paper 4 as well. So S.R. Sankaran played a prominent role in this particular passage of this particular bill and as well as its implementation. The right answer being C. Moving on to the next topic, this particular image appeared on the first page and the associated news appeared on page number 5 of today's news, The Hindu. The news is in the context of Bannerghatta Biological Park. So Biological Park is basically a fashionable name for zoos. What is the context? South India's first and country's largest leopard safari is going to be has been inaugurated at Bannerghatta Biological Park. So in this context, what becomes important for us is 3 key elements. First being leopard, second being zoological park. What is zoological park? And then perhaps the associated legislation or central zoo authority, right? These 3 key areas become important for us when it comes to civil services examination prelims. Now about today, for our specific purpose, we have framed this particular question based on the location of the park as well as leopard. Now the key feature of this particular species of cat is that it does not have any strip. The key differentiation between tiger and leopard, the primary one, being that it has got spots over its skin and it does not have any kind of strips. What is the IUCN status with respect to this particular species? It is categorized as vulnerable under the IUCN red list. Now what is the population over there based on the recently conducted data in 2022? Close to 13,874 leopards are found in India. When we compare this population to the data recorded in 2018, the data was close to 12,800, right? So there is an increase of a net increase of 1,000 leopards in past 4 years. What is the state with highest number of leopard population in India? The top leading state being Madhya Pradesh, followed by Maharashtra, Karnataka and Tamil Nadu. So obviously Karnataka is not the state with highest number of leopards in India. Now in these particular states, the population of leopard is either highest or is showing the increasing patterns. However, in states like Uttarakhand, Odisha and Gangetic Plains, because of maybe perhaps the reasons like habitat loss, loss of prey, right? Or for example, rapid urbanization or motor vehicle accidents with motor vehicle, that there has been an observation of decline of population of leopards. Now reasons being, for example, poaching, habitat loss, and accidents. Now this is the information that is important to you when it comes to the species about this particular biological park. This is located in the state of Karnataka, the city being or the district being Bangalore, and it is a part of larger national park, that is Bannerghatta National Park, that is located at the southern tip of Karnataka, southeastern tip of Karnataka. Based on the information that we have just received, let us try to solve the practice MCQ. In the past, there has been a direct question on the location of Pakke or Pakui Wildlife Sanctuary, right? With reference to leopards in India, consider the following statement. The highest number of leopards are reported in Karnataka. Did we just read like this? We read that the highest number of leopards are reported in the state of Madhya Pradesh. So statement 1 is incorrect. The largest leopard safari is located in Tamil Nadu. No, we just read that the largest and South India's first and overall largest safari has been opened in Karnataka. Statement 2 is again incorrect. As per the status of leopard report, India witnessed an increase in the number of leopards. Yes, this statement is true, because when we compare 2018 data with 2022 data, there has been a reported increase in the leopard population. So how many statements are correct? Only one statement is correct. So let us move on to the third article for prelims. The context of this particular article is that the Dutch Prime Minister Mark Rutte has been appointed as the next NATO's Secretary General. With this, we have framed a particular MCQ on the organization, that is NATO. Now, what are the key details, key facts about NATO? It is an intergovernmental organized military alliance of the European and North American nations. So it has been cleverly named North Atlantic Treaty Organization, which means that the countries which are bordering the North Atlantic Ocean are the part of it. What we see, what is its origin? We see its origin immediately after the end of World War. After post-World War, there was a treaty that was signed in Washington, and in this particular treaty of 1949, this particular organization, that is NATO, came into being. It is a type of collective defense system or collective defense treaty. We will understand what is the meaning of collective defense treaty in the coming slides. It played a key role at the time of Cold War. And see, again, the world was divided not just in ideological camps, but also in economic camps and military camps. So at one side, the Soviet Union had had Warsaw Pact, right? And on the other side, they had this particular institution of NATO. It is headquartered in Brussels, that is Belgium. Total present membership as of now of this organization is 32, out of which the founding members are listed below. And in the recent times, just in this particular year 2024, Sweden has also joined this organization as its recent member. You can see in this particular image the NATO members of Europe, mostly Europe, are already seen, and only the members, for example, Iceland, which is located over here, is not seen, and the rest of the North Atlantic countries, for example, Canada and USA, these particular countries of European Union, along with Iceland and Canada and USA, these all constitute the NATO. Now we will understand the difference between what is collective security and collective defense system, right? So this particular organization, NATO, is popularly also known as a collective defense treaty. The primary difference between collective security and collective defense, these two are the some of the core concepts of international relations. The first one being principle based, common interest of the states. When the states understand that the common interest of the nation states, they supersede the national interest, that is individual interest of the state, they constitute and sign a collective security treaty. However, if we see ideologically, when there is a principle, that is, if you attack on one of us, you attack on all of us, right? That is, attack on one is considered as an attack on everyone. It is called as a collective defense mechanism. When we come to collective security, it has a near universal membership. For example, like United Nations and its organ like United Nations Security Council. However, when it comes to collective defense treaties, the membership is limited. For example, Warsaw Pact had its membership in the present erstwhile part of Soviet Union and certain other states. And for example, NATO also has a limited membership. It is open to North Atlantic members. Again, let me remind you of one of the key facts, that Ukraine is, as of now, not a member of NATO. And again, when Russia started its aggression on Ukraine, the Russian party says that one of the reasons behind the aggression was the Ukrainian argument or Ukrainian provocation that they are going to join the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. And again, the argument of Russia was that this will bring the NATO forces at the gates of Russia. So again, Russia always has wanted that there needs to be certain buffer states between Russia and the NATO forces. That is why that was one of the primary reasons of attack on attack on Ukraine. So primary information for you to remember is that Ukraine is, as of now, not a part of NATO. Then next is that the difference between collective security and collective defense is that the first one being, that is collective security, the focus is on peacekeeping. And then in this particular aspect of collective defense, focus is on providing proactive military defense. This particular collective security works on the principle of international law, and it has got its legal backing by the international laws. For example, because United Nations is a global international body which has got the power to sign treaties, enforce treaties, so on and forth. Right. So United Nations Security Council, any resolution passed by the council also has got a legal backing. However, these particular collective defense organizations, for example, like NATO, are based on mutual defense agreements. Right. The difference between a international law and defense agreement is particular. The context is that mutual defense agreements are applicable amongst the parties to it. However, international laws have near universal backing. Some examples of collective security are United Nations Security Council sanctions or United Nations Peacekeeping Force. And some examples of collective defense being NATO and Warsaw Pact. Right. So if someone is interested, I have given the entire list of 32 members over there. You can take the screenshot as well, but however, this particular information would not be that relevant. Any country which has, for example, recently joined would be of interest to perhaps UPSC, for example, like Sweden, which has joined in 2024, or any country which is having some kind of war or civil unrest, right? For example, Ukraine would be of interest to UPSC. However, there is no need to remember every country that is part of NATO. Based on the information that we have received, let us try to solve the MCQ. Consider the following statements with reference to NATO. Belgium, France, Netherlands, Sweden are among the founding members of NATO. Now the odd man out over here is Sweden. If Sweden has joined in 2024, how can it be a founding member? So statement 1 being incorrect. NATO is a collective security organization. What did we just read? Is it a collective security organization or is it a collective defense organization? So it is a collective defense organization, which makes our answer this also as incorrect and answer as D, that is neither one nor two. Before we conclude, let us do the last question of the day as well. The topic is micro, small and medium enterprises. The news appeared on page number 3 of today's Business Line newspaper. What was the context of this particular news? That micro, small and medium enterprises should use technologies like cloud computing, artificial intelligence, big data analytics to remove the operational bottlenecks that are being presented to the MSMEs and improve their performance and sales, right? What is the key importance of micro, small and medium enterprises as recognized by the government of India? Is that it is important for fostering entrepreneurship, right? Micro, small and medium enterprises are the labs in which entrepreneurs are trained, right? Then employment opportunity, MSMEs provide employment opportunities for semi-skilled, unskilled youth as well, right? So they are again the reservoir of employment opportunities. And lastly, as recognized by even United Nations, that the role of MSMEs in reducing poverty through empowerment and employment cannot be understated. Now, what are basically MSMEs? MSMEs include startups and other business initiatives which are comparatively small in budget and have limited operations. They can be either operating in manufacturing or service sectors. In the recent times, Government of India has made certain changes in the definitions of MSMEs. For example, 3 changes which have been mentioned which have been brought in. The first one being investment limit of the MSMEs has been increased. Second being an additional criteria of annual turnover, which we'll just see, has been introduced, and distinction in definition of manufacturing and service that we just read, that MSMEs can be either in manufacturing sector or in services sector. Erstwhile the definition was there was 2 distinct categories, right? There could be an MSME in manufacturing and there could be a MSME in services. Although unofficially it still remains, but officially there is no distinction between manufacturing and services as a categories. So what are the revised MSMEs classification based on which we have framed our MCQ as well? The first one being for micro industries, if the investment is up to 1 crore and the turnover is less than 5 crore, it would be classified as micro industry. If the investment is less than 10 crore and turnover is less than 50 crore, it would be classified as a small industry. Always remember this data, because this could be one of the point or one of the statements while framing the question of UPSC. Next, medium is investment up to 50 crore and turnover, if the turnover is up to or less than 250 crores, it would be classified as medium enterprise, right? So based on the changed definition and criteria in the past as well, there has been a question on MSMEs in 2023, very recent paper. Let us try to solve the question. With reference to MSMEs, consider the following statements. A manufacturing enterprise having an investment of 2 crore would be categorized as micro enterprise. Is it correct? Please write in the comment section. A service enterprise having a turnover of 10 crores would be classified as a small enterprise. Turnover of up to 50 crore small, that means this statement is correct. A service enterprise with an investment of 60 crores would be classified as medium enterprise. Is this statement correct? No, obviously it is incorrect. Statement 1 also being incorrect. The right answer is A, only 1. Also, again, refer to these revised criteria and try to solve it on your own as well. With this, we conclude the session for today, and we will be meeting very soon for the next time. And have a good evening.